If you don't know Brave Combat Federation, you're missing out on a powerhouse in combat sports. Today, I'm joined by Sam Brett, the Athlete Relations Manager for Brave Combat Federation, and we dive into a lot of exciting topics like their amazing global growth, their deal expanding into Europe with Arenas Group, and then some of just the amazing talent and scouting that they're doing with bringing some of the best combat sports athletes in the world into their ecosystem and onto the world's global stage. If you're a fan of MMA and combat sports, you definitely don't want to miss this one. Let's get it. Welcome back to Fight Capital, where we step into the ring of combat sports business. I'm your host, Ryan Rapaport. Today, I'm excited to have a conversation with Sam Brett. As the Athlete Relations Manager for Brave Combat Federation, he plays a crucial role in the organization's ambitious 2024 European Tour, which marks a significant expansion into new territories like Croatia and the Netherlands. His expertise is vital in ensuring the athletes are supported and ready for the spotlight as Brave extends its reach to over 32 countries, more than any other MMA promotion. Sam's dedication to athlete welfare and engagement is essential for the success of events across the globe, and through his efforts, is instrumental in reinforcing Brave's commitment to the growing sport of MMA amidst this era of unprecedented reach for the organization. Thanks for being here today, Sam. How are you and where are you joining from?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for the very kind words. Very much appreciate it. Made me feel very important. But yeah, I'm in Bahrain at the moment, where Brave HQ is. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, just to get it out of the way, huge fan of the work you do on the podcast with Mr. Shahid. I think the information that you're delivering on the talent that comes into Brave is phenomenal. And I think one of the things I always like to point out, I talk a lot about Brave just because the level of talent that you guys have coming through there. And I think it's really important to feature you because I think some of the, if not some of the best fighters, some of the best up and coming fighters in the world are coming through your guys' organization. But, I'm curious just to learn a little bit more about your journey. Can you talk to me a little bit about through how you joined Brave and what inspired you to become an athlete manager in combat sports?
So yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Brave. I've been in Bahrain now for 6 years. When it comes to the MMA world or combat sports for that matter, there isn't something I haven't done. I've run a gym. I've been a referee. I've been on the boxing committee. I've even emceed some of the amateur events here. The only one I hadn't really been is a matchmaker and athlete relations manager. So in all honesty, I was doing a boxing. I was working as a technical delegate for a boxing show over here in Bahrain, and the guy running it knew I knew Shahid and those guys from having a gym back in the day. So he says, do you mind dropping the tickets off to the office? I went into the office, we had a bit of a chat and walked out with a job really. So I guess having an eye for talent and what sells or what works is sort of comes naturally to me, I guess. So Shahid must have seen that, and here I am. Now two years into it, and yeah, 2 years today. Believe it or not, it's actually 2 years today.
Oh, funny. Well, I'm glad you told me because I was wondering how long you've been with the organization. I know you're getting a really good profile with them now, but I'd love for you just to share a milestone or a success story that you've had working with the athletes during that time there, or, maybe some other time in your career as well.
Do you know what? I'll keep it Brave related. I've got I did a little bit of prep just before this meeting. Just my memory's not the best, to be honest. So I've got a few things written down so I can sort of come back to it. And to be honest, it's the achievements that I think are noteworthy and what I'm proud of. But when we talk about a milestone, one of the things that stands out to me, something that I'm most proud of, not necessarily for me, but more for Brave, is Nkosi Ndebele becoming the world champion at 135 pounds. Nkosi is a guy that he came to combat MMA late. I believe he started in karate, but I believe he came to, I can't remember the year, one of the IMMAF events that we had in Bahrain. and was like, wow, I want to fight for this promotion. I want to fight here in Bahrain. He went on to have a very successful IMMAF career. I believe he was the number one amateur African at the time we signed him, and he spent his whole career at Brave, from IMMAF and visualize it to in Bahrain to then signing for Brave, spending his whole career with Brave, and then becoming the world champion in Bahrain is it was amazing. That's something I'm really proud of for Brave to have that sort of success story. The night itself was special. He came in with an entourage full of classic cars, and Shorty Torres came in on a helicopter, and it was just it's like the stars aligned that night. It was the last show of the year. Shorty wears a lot of bling, like pendants and stuff, and I personally believe one was made for him. And then Nkosi won, and then the jewelers came in and presented it to Nkosi, and it was all just, it was a special night, and I think that stands out as one of the most proud moments I've been for Brave, particularly because it's full circle,
Yeah, I've had Shorty on the podcast, and he's become a friend since then. So that was a hard one to watch, but man, he's grown significantly, even from the first fight to the second one. You saw that, and I think you touched on a really good point too. Everything His Highness Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa has done with IMMAF, I mean, speaks to the value that Brave is bringing in as a Bahrain organization, and what you guys are doing there is pretty impressive, and the global growth your team is seeing over there is also impressive. Can you just talk a little bit about how you see this partnership that you have now in Eastern Europe with Arena Channels and expansion into new European markets are going to be influencing the opportunities for other future talent coming into Brave?
So, I mean, we obviously, thanks to sort of Sheikh Khalid's vision, he always wanted to become the most global MMA brand in the world, and thankfully that's something we've achieved, and we will continue to broaden that gap, so to speak. And when we start looking at the global MMA market, Europe is sort of a mainstay. It's one of the ones you want to conquer. We've done 13 countries there now. We plan to expand, but there's a wealth of talent there. There's a load of other promotions that are coming out doing great things as well. It really is. It wouldn't be right for Brave being the most global brand and not having a representation in Europe. Fantastic cities to go to. We talk about moments. The Nkosi moment, another crazy moment for me, there's two of them, was last year in Serbia and in France, where they were some of the best sporting events I've ever been to. I've been involved in sports all my life. My father used to take me to Southampton Football Club. Unfortunately, I don't really want to shout from the rooftops I'm their fan these days, because they're not like what they used to be.
One, yeah.
But I used to go every single week with a season ticket to Southampton Football Club. I've been to Wembley to see the FA Cup final. I've been to Twickenham to watch the rugby. I've been to many, many sporting events. Those two stand out as some of the best I've ever been to. The atmosphere was electric. I get tingles thinking about it. So when you've come off the back of 2023, when we've done huge events like that in Europe, how could we not go back? How could we not expand? It'd be crazy not to. We had our first ever, not first ever, sorry. We sold out the Stark Arena in Serbia. And we clearly have success there. We've clearly made an impact there. And there's a lot of talent there. Why not go back? Why not conquer it some more?
I think of people like Bojan Milosevic, who I've got to train with out in Denver, coming out of Serbia. There's just some huge talent. And I also think that maybe there aren't as many opportunities for the fighters coming out of there. There's probably world-class talent, but whether or not they're able to get on a global stage when everyone's focusing on certain areas in the world. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you identify and nurture talent coming into Brave?
Yes, I mean, I came into Brave, and I think we pride ourselves on our scouting program. We honestly believe we've got the best in the world. So coming into that, it's a big task. It's big shoes to fill. I won't go into the secret sauce to what sort of makes it, but we rely heavily on our relationship, and I mean, it's tricky. It's tricky. You can see I have no hair. There's a reason for that. It's not the easiest job, but we have our ways to scout. We lean very heavily on some of our major partnerships, and what Brave do really well is nurture guys and tell their story. I believe we're the best in the world at it. You look at somebody like Mokaev, who came up the IMMAF chain, 23-0, started his career in Brave, fought some huge names. We told his story, and now he's one of the sort of hot topics of MMA. So again, you look at Khamzat Chimaev, one of the biggest names in MMA. You look at Ilya Topuria. I mean, everybody knows who he is now.
I mean, the
So
list could go on and on and on
this
with
could
all
go
the
on.
talent you guys are putting
We
out
could
there.
talk
Yeah.
about it all night. So we have an eye for it. A lot of credit goes to Mohammed Shahid, our president, who's very, very determined and ensures that we maintain the scouting program. He's hard on me about it. He wants to know who we're looking at, how we're doing it. I owe a lot of credit to him for sort of giving me the tools and resources to do.
Yeah, and I'll just second that. I mean, one of the reasons I'm been extremely impressed with Brave and why I look to your organization is the talent. We could talk probably the whole podcast just about the Dagestani fighters, and all the level of people coming out. Most people won't know, but if you're a hardcore fan like myself, knowing, like you said, the list can go on and on. Just looking at what you're doing there, and now seeing that influence expanding into the Balkans and across Europe. I mean, you mentioned France. I think of Benoit Saint Denis, right? And just who's going to keep coming. It's almost scary the amount of people that no one knows yet, and that are going to be deposited across the world. But your team is doing such a good job growing that talent internally. In light of that growth that Brave is happening, in this partnership that you have now with like Arena Channels Group, how do you see that affecting the scouting and development of all this new talent that's coming across the Balkans and Europe?
It's obviously a huge partnership for us. Arena Sports do tremendous work. They're one of the biggest sports networks in Europe, so it only helps strengthen our position in Europe. It only sort of makes fighters want to fight for us even more. A lot of fighters love fighting for Brave because of the way we treat them, because it's almost like getting a passport around the world when you fight for Brave, being the most global brand. But having networks like Arena Sports come on board just broadens the amount of households you can reach, particularly in Europe. And why would you not want to fight when many people are going to see you? I think with Arena Sports and the other TV partners we have, we've now got potential to reach over 1 billion households.
That's crazy. And you touched a little bit on it too, the athletes and the support they're getting from you. You mentioned Makayev, like just look at where he's at now. And I think that he's probably already been positioned to be a title challenger. I mean, he's definitely going to be there very soon. I have a feeling, if not, they're already working on it. But can you just talk about, because one of the things I like to feature in talking about the business side of it is the fact that the athletes don't have it easy. And I would love just to hear from your perspective some of the challenges that you see the athletes facing in combat sports today and how you're help them navigate those.
Yeah, particularly at the very early stage of MMA careers, it is tough. We see a lot of challenges. Guys are fighting for not a huge amount of money. They've got bills to pay. They've got coaches to pay. They've got managers to pay. It's tough. And, being a fighter is not cheap either. Living a healthy lifestyle and getting supplements in and paying for training is tough. We see it a lot. I mean, when you have talent like Mokaev, we'll go back to Mokaev. When we have talent like him, he's come from nothing, but fortunately, thanks to IMMAF, there's a platform for these guys that if they go into that route as an amateur, they get the exposure. They start little name for themselves, and then they start getting scouted by companies, promotions like us that are gonna sort of propel their career even more. So it is very challenging for the majority, but there are amateur IMMAF route that will help them.
Yeah, and I'm curious because in your opinion, I mean, you don't have to give me the secret sauce, but with your hand on so many athletes, what are you seeing as like key factors that are making these successful fighters inside and more importantly outside the ring as well?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't think there is a perfect package, to be honest. I don't think there is. I mean, one name that springs to mind that's pretty close is Ramazan Gitanov. I'll use him as an example. The most successful amateur athlete of all time. 3-time consecutive IMMAF world champion. There's nothing he can't do. But what makes him stand out is, I mean, it seems like an obvious answer, but there's some people that do it better than others, and that's dedication. It's dedication to the craft. I remember, I think Ramazan is now on a 32 fight win streak across amateur and pro. He got his face broken by a flying knee. I can't remember who the opponent was, but it was a long time ago. We're talking 33 odd fights ago. Because he was a wrestler. But he learned from them, okay, I need to learn to strike. He went away and learned to strike, and now he's throwing jabs like a boxer on the bag. If there was a boxer and him next to you, you wouldn't know which one was the boxer. So his dedication to the craft, his dedication to the sport, to learn the different aspects, has led him to the success. So, I mean, it's an obvious answer, but really it is the dedication. There's some guys that are great fighters that aren't as dedicated. They might be more talented, but they're not as dedicated. I think it comes down to the dedication. We've got some guys that are great fighters but not great in the mic. There's some guys that are great in the mic but not as great a fighter. It's tough to say the perfect package, but I do honestly think it comes down to the dedication. I don't think anyone's as dedicated as I've seen as Ramazan, and his success speaks for itself.
It's something I've seen as well, having trained and seeing people coming in, like up-ranked wrestlers coming in and not being able to throw a kick. And you judge them by like, okay, can you throw a kick next year? Do you still, 2-year-old throwing a kick, or are you actually able to throw a head kick and turn your hip into it? And, as the fan and as someone who's kind of seeing what's happening behind the scenes, I'm always like, okay, where were they at and where are they at now? And that how people are able to kind of grow and go through that evolution is how where it might be in the future as well. So I agree with that. And the only way you get like that is putting in the time, finding the right coaching. And, like you said, that's not cheap.
Stripping back the ego. Some guys struggle with that. If you're able to do that, there's a saying that ego is the enemy. It couldn't be more true, particularly in this sport, because if you do have an ego and you're not as dedicated and it is your enemy, you will get humbled.
Yeah, it's kind of the balance that people are playing, right? Is, you got to be confident, and belief in yourself, but also being able to go back and look and say, hey, I'm willing to go back to the drawing board. Someone who's catching that knee, probably going in for a shot, versus now they're throwing fists. I mean, that definitely speaks to his character. And like you said, stripping away, being like, okay, I know I can be better. I'm just kind of wrapping up here. I'm curious, looking ahead, are there any trends or changes that you're looking at in the combat sports and on the management side that are going to help kind of propel the sport forward?
I think sort of one thing that Brave do well, and I'd like to see more, is sort of moving the MMA business away from an event business and more towards a sport business. So when I talk about an event business, you're talking about based on revenue and profit, is driving everything, getting bums on seats. It doesn't really have those sort of sports values. A sport business, it more focuses on like an international governing body that brings an entire sport together, sharing the same sporting value. Promotions like IMMAF and, sort of working towards a common goal is what Brave strives to do. Part of the reason we go to so many countries is to create a sports ecosystem that aligns with this sort of mindset. You see some promotions allow soccer kicks, or used to allow soccer kicks up until very recently. I know there are the unified MMA rules, not every promotion in the world will follow them. We've been to many different countries, and I just don't feel like there's really a cohesive sort of body. I think that needs to develop, and I think the sport needs to become a bit uniform. I mean, even at the highest level, we're still seeing a lot of sort of different opinions when it comes down to judging, new school versus old school. There's some real controversial decisions. Like, I think people that are a lot smarter than me at a high level need to sort of come together and make it a bit more uniform.
And that's something your organization is doing. I would say better than anyone else. Maybe there are some people that are having their hands more on like the regulatory bodies, but in terms of creating an ecosystem, like you said, going back to the amateur levels, coming up into them becoming pros, to them becoming world champions on the biggest stages in the world. I mean, there's something to be said about that, and like such an important part. And one of the reasons why I love Brave, I love watching it, I love turning into all the highlights. I'm just a big fan of what you and the team are building there, and can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, and you have a great rest of the day.
You too. Thank you very much.